Hi friends, it's Allison here again, sharing some more inspiration for Scrapbook Nerd. Today I'm creating a 12 by 12 scrapbook layout that was created using my Cricut as well as Cocoa Vanilla, Daydream, and pattern papers from Simple Stories Crafty Girl. So I really liked the blue printed pattern paper in the Crafty Girl collection, and I really wanted to use it on this layout. After I got it glued to the layout base and then adhered the scalloped border to the layout as well, I decided that I wanted to distress the edges of the paper, and then after I got them distressed, decided that I wanted to hand stitch as well. So I got the border down, and then after that I'm going to pull out some embroidery thread and I'm going to hand stitch around the blue pattern paper as well as oversized tag that I'm going to add to the layout that I cut with my Cricut. You can see me working on that right now. So I just hand stitched around the outside edge of the tag and then the blue pattern paper to make it easier for me to make sure it stayed straight, my stitching. I used a straight edge ruler, my Versamat, and a pencil just to mark lines, roughly quarter of an inch from the edge of each of the papers. And then I distressed them again. I used my scissors to distress the edges of the paper. And just a note, it's a little harder to do after you have glued paper down to your layout base. Just saying. It's not impossible, but it is a little bit harder. So after I had all of that done, I kept looking at the left-hand side of my layout base, wondering whether I should add hand stitching to that as well. In the end, I did add hand stitching. But before I got to that point, I decided that I wanted to back my photo to some scrap pattern paper that I had in my stash. This paper actually comes from Pink Fresh Studios' Let's Stay Home, I think it's called. I liked the light striped pattern in the background, and I thought it would matte nicely the black and white photo that I'm using. The picture that I'm scrapbooking today is actually just documenting a story about making my kids' lunches for school and how I have such high intentions for myself to make lunches every night after supper while I'm cleaning up the kitchen and doing the dishes. And okay, sorry, I got interrupted there for a second. I completely fail at making lunches every night after supper for my kids for school the next day. So I do them in the mornings. So that is what this layout is about. Right now I'm just putting some foam square adhesives on the back of these floral images that I cut with my Cricut. I just used cardstock from my stash to cut them. I wanted to adhere them with foam squares so that they would sit nicely over top of all the ruffled edges and distressing. I glued the photo, which is 3 by 4 inches, I will be gluing it to the top right hand corner of the tag. Right now I'm just going through the Cocoa Vanilla word ephemera to figure out my title. I wanted to use The Good Life. Is it The Good Life? Yeah, I think it's The Good Life. Because even though my kids are in grade 5, their mom still makes their lunches. They could make their lunches, but I do it for them. And so they are pretty darn lucky. So now that I have that figured out, I'm also going to pull out the ephemera that goes with this collection as well. And I'm going to figure out which images, or at least the ephemera, that I want to use to go behind the word that and fill up the rest of the tag. I settle on just a couple of the flowers from the ephemera pack. Seriously, this pack is just gorgeous. I wanted to use some of the 6x8 papers as well to create the scallop border in the background, but because I just wanted to keep it cut at 1 inch by 12 strip instead of 2, I just used cardstock from my stash instead of the pattern paper. But the pattern paper, the yellow one in the pack, would have looked dynamite too. So here I'm just figuring out what flowers from the ephemera pack I want to use. I keep coming back to this blue house while I'm creating as well. I really like it and want to use it sort of in the corner where I was holding it, but I wait until closer to the end of the layout before I actually commit to it because I just wasn't sure. I pulled out the big rainbow that was part of the ephemera pack as well and kind of toyed with that idea. You don't see that in the video. I do that off camera. But in the end, I stick with these flowers as they have them right now. I'm just going to use my tape runner to adhere them to the tag. And then the word "that" is going to be adhered on top of them. I'm just going to use my tape runner to glue them or glue that to the layout. And the flower on the far right hand of the layout, I'm going to keep there as well. I'm going to add a slightly larger blue flower than the one that I just put there. There it is right there. And then I'm going to add some leaves, a sprig of leaves, to make it look like a little more of a cluster. And then that side of the layout is done. So before I committed to adding that house to the layout, I actually have sparrows that I cut with my Cricut as well. They're going to be added to the layout, but I wasn't entirely sure where I wanted them yet. So instead, I wrote out my journaling and then trimmed it down into thin paper strips and adhered them all above and below my tag. And with that done, I felt more comfortable adding the sparrows to my layout. You can see one of them just above the journaling right now. They're green and white, and I actually used some of the gray pattern paper from the Cocoa Vanilla Daydream collection for the beak of the sparrows as well. I know it's really hard to see in the video, but it is there, and I did use it. So I'm going to get my house adhered now because I've finally decided that I wanted to commit to that. The birds were adhered with a combination of Tombow Mono liquid glue and foam squares as well, just for added dimension. And then I played around with these Tim Holtz phrase stickers for a while as well. I had one pulled out that said, "Keep moving forward." And then I pulled out another smaller one that said, "Do your best," I think. I left them in the left-hand corner by the floral cluster on the left-hand side of the tag, but I wasn't really happy with that. I didn't know if I liked it there. Originally, I had it on the right-hand side of the photo, but I felt like it was just too bulky. So in the end, I took them both off and then moved the "Do Your Best" sticker to the upper right hand of the photo just to kind of fill up that corner there of just negative space, dead space. But I do that off camera. I decided at this point, after I got the twine adhered, that I wanted to ruffle up and distress the edges of the layout base as well. So I have done that. You can see that I've added the stitching around that side of the layout as well. And seriously, I'm so glad I decided to add more hand stitching to that side of the layout because honestly, I feel like it's complete now. And without it, it would have felt like something was missing. Here are the close-ups. I hope this layout inspired you. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, make sure you head to the Scrapbook Nerd shop and check for your Cocoa Vanilla and Simple Stories products there. I will be back again soon with more creative inspiration for you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and a like, and leave a comment and let me know that you're here as well. I will talk to you again soon. Bye guys.